Well, hello. It's session 3 or chapter 3 in the book of discipling, and I'm here with Evan Nagayama. And I'm Francis Orejudos, if you've been following, and we have been having this podcast just talking through the book of discipling by Mark Dever, and we've had already 2 great sessions hearing from Pastor Josh, hearing from Hyunsa about discipling, and I think we're really getting into the meat of the work here. I mean, that's the whole chapter today, is talking about the work of discipling, and I'm really grateful to have Evan Nagayama, Mr. Evan, on board to have this talk. So, Evan, why don't you just introduce yourself to, obviously the church knows you, but anyone that may not know you well, if I'm a new person in the church or if I'm a, visitor, just introduce yourself to me. And, even, I know you can't get into like full testimony, but just, how the Lord has brought you here and what might be next. And then also if you could talk about, why is discipling important to you? So that's a chock full right there, man.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Francis. So my name's Evan, and just about me, I'm married. We have 3 boys, and I came to the church actually after getting saved in college. 2009, so it's been quite a while. But yeah, the Lord was just gracious to me. I think just even the discipleship of evangelism. A good friend was just a good discipler in a lot of ways, and encouraged me to see Christ. And since then, just came to the church, and that's just kind of the rest is history. Like I got discipled by so many people here, informally, formally, as I walked with Christ. And
Give me some names, man.
Yeah,
Give some shout outs.
Yeah, so I was part of the college group back then. So some of those guys aren't here anymore.
Okay. But they might be, listening.
Yeah.
Providence,
So
right?
I mean, let's see. So when I first came, Randy Chu was a guy who was leading the group, and just a college kid. There was probably like 5 college students here.
Yeah.
So every Sunday I would show up, and it's like, who am I going to talk to? And
Yeah.
Randy was just a faithful guy, and he would just talk to me, and I was like, what'd you do? And this weekend he would just talk about his life, and I just learned a lot, and would go over to his house sometimes and see his family.
And he's related to someone in the church.
He is.
So Randy Chu,
yeah,
his wife is Tiffany
his
Chu.
wife. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Tiffany Chu is
Right.
Jeremy Yang's sister. So anyway,
so super thankful for him. Just like guys like Jesse, David Pareto, just guys who poured into my life or just included me in what they were doing. I remember going evangelizing with Jesse so many times, and just like I had no idea what to say, and just watching him learning over time, like, okay, I think I could say something, now, and so that was helpful. Ben Liao came in and took over the Bible study at that time, and he had a huge impact on my life, just spending time with him. Watching him parent. He would bring I think then Josiah was like 2 years old, his son. And so just seeing like how he did ministry, how he loved people, how he pursued people, and how him and his wife just loved others, and then also just taught the word. And so that was super formative for me. But of course, like discipling all of life, like all of the church, just different guys, just different conversations here and there. Watching people learning, and being discipled by the preaching over time, teaching, Bible studies, and then of course just by the Lord in the Word, in good books. And so just a product of many different avenues of discipling. Yeah, for sure.
So even if we just took that and we just blew that up,
yeah.
And there's like so many things you said just in there. You said like being taught, and you talked about evangelizing with people.
Yeah.
So like teaching is, I think we can directly connect with discipling, but like there are things about discipling that may or may not be known that we don't necessarily correlate. So like Jesse Ray Quesada, you're evangelizing with him.
Yeah.
That's part of discipling, but sometimes you may not make that connection. You're talking about modeling, following people's examples.
Yeah.
You're talking about, you said in love. So just so many things I know we're going to blow out here when we talk about the work, but just in what you've experienced, there's just already so much that we can take from when we think about discipling. And just one quick anecdote, because you mentioned Randy Chu. Shout out to Randy Chu. But just so we talk about being influenced, right? Yeah. So Randy, him and I were the same years in college at UCLA, and just talking about how we could influence each other. I remember when I was a new believer at UCLA, super new. I didn't have a lot of Christian friends at all. And in the spring of 1996, I started hanging out with a group of guys in our Bible study, and we had a sleepover, and it was the first time where I knew dudes that like I can really mesh with. We would mess around, but then we actually got in a circle, opened up their Bibles, and they're like, "Okay, guys, we got to stop messing around as freshmen. We got to be serious next year." And I'm like, man, I thought we were going to talk about girls right now. I thought we were going to play like Catan right now. We're going to open up our Bible. And this is all new to me. Yeah. But I could tell these guys are serious. Like they were they were not down to mess around. And then I remember Randy going around and saying like, guys, how will you serve Grace Community Church next year? And that was the first time I ever heard of the idea about like serving in a church. Like what's service? You know, like what do you... I'm just going to learn. You know, what are you talking about? But he said it with such conviction. It made me think, and then it kind of helped me form different thoughts about what church life is like. Yeah. And Randy, that sticks with me today. So if you're listening, anyone that knows Randy, that definitely had an influence on my life personally. So we never know the things that we say over time. How. We think they're kind of throwaways. We don't think like, I was not in like a formal setting, so to speak, but he said one thing and it's kind of still having rippling effects, cool. Today.
And it's cool because it's like it's not just so random. Like there was an intentional reason probably that he was saying that. Yeah. And that had an effect on you to love the Lord more and serve him. Yeah. So, yeah.
So cool. And that's all kind of what we're talking about today. So, so today's chapter is the work of discipling, and just going through it here. So one of the first things that Deborah does right away is talk about the kingdom of God and how the kingdom is built by discipling. We think about kingdom building, and we watch the movies, and it could be like, we think of kingdom building by like, dominating another country and like, battling and, like there are great kings and fortunes and things like that. But when I think about discipling, it doesn't necessarily mesh. So what did you think of that? Like how Deborah brought that out, how the kingdom of God is totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he says, discipling does not seem like the most obvious way to establish and strengthen a kingdom. But then he says, but Jesus concluded his time on earth commanding his disciples to make disciples. I think that's always struck me as I've thought about this and studied this. Just, you get to the end of the New Testament in the beginning of Acts, and it's almost like an expectation because Jesus rises and you're like, okay, what's next? Like, what's the plan for his like kingdom? And then he leaves, like he ascends, and then he's like, he leaves it with the disciples, and you're like, is this really the plan? Like, is that really?
Now there's like horses and chariots coming through, like big fat swords. Because even the
disciples are like, when is the kingdom coming? And he's like, it's not for you to know. It's not the time. And he gives the Great Commission to go and make disciples, and this is his plan. Like this is the way that God has ordained for the kingdom to go forth in this time is through the church and through discipling. And so, yeah, I think that's been huge, and just like, okay, like this is what God has called us to. This is His plan, and so we need to obey, and we need to disciple and be discipled. And I think also, like, at the end of the book, he kind of bookends it, I guess, like, because at the end of the book he talks about how it's really like every person has been made to be a disciple. And he starts with, like, how Adam and Eve, they didn't come to this world knowing what to do. Like, God instructed them, He discipled them in a sense. And so that's just our calling for all of us, is to be learning from the Lord, learning from others, and then influencing and loving others to follow the Lord. So it's just the mandate we have. Whether we believe it or not, like we are, that's what we're called to.
It is His plan for building up the kingdom. And I just wanted to read the quote, because from Matthew 13 31 32, that's what's quoted here. The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. So, when I read that verse, oftentimes there's much to be said about the mustard seed, but and what it'll become. But just framing it how it is, that is the kingdom of heaven, and just describing that the kingdom of heaven is so different than what we would think about. But and that's what we're talking about. The kingdom of heaven is going to grow not through something that's spectacular, but through small, faithful acts of ordinary people, like regular Joes, like me and you. Maybe like me, not you, because you're like you're like a real Joe, but like a regular, ordinary people following Jesus, and just longing for heaven, and not expecting like just crazy, spectacular, results, but just ordinary means, mundane. So that's again for you, church, for every believer that's hearing this. It's just like that means for you too, like where you're at, in any station of life, whatever you're experiencing, you get to participate in building out the kingdom of God, man. Just even to even think about that, like, wow, like that it's not just for like elite, like SEAL Team 6 people, but just regular people. That's pretty exciting. So that's why we're jazzed. That's why we're talking about discipling, because we're so privileged,
And I think to add to that, like, this is actually God's plan to use what is weak, right? To shame the wise, right? And to show that the boast is in God alone. And so, we are normal. And I think when we look back at who we were and who we are now, like, all we can do is say, like, praise God. And then God continues to use those weak people, humble people, to continue to influence and love others, and His glory just continues to be magnified. As He continues to save and sanctify through us. Like, we're just normal people. So
and I don't know if we want to just keep pounding on that theme. We will, because that is so not the way the rest of the world works with anything, right? Like, in order to do something, you talked about LeBron James on Sunday. So to have any renown in this world, right? Like, you got to be LeBron James at basketball, or Kobe maybe. But, you got to be great.
Right.
But like being great in the kingdom is being humble and being weak. And that means that there's a place for every believer, right? So again, church, we love you so much. We just want to make that resound so loudly that God is calling every believer to disciple, to do this work. So what is this work? That's the subject of this chapter. It starts off with just this model of teaching, correcting, modeling, loving, having humility, but the first here is talking about initiating relationships. And so what is that, Evan? Like, explain what Deborah's talking about.
I think he says, it's initiating. It's not being passive. I like how he kind of helps us. He says that can feel awkward, and but I think it's just like you only have so much time. You only have so many people in your life that are available. And so just helping us see, like, we want to use our time well, we want to be intentional, and so we need to just, in the Lord's will, just try to choose someone and go for it. Like, look at the guys around you, look at the people around you, and say, like, hey, this is one person that I want to pursue. This is one person that I think I can get into their life, whether that's super formal or informal living life, but I want to influence this person to know Christ more. So just helping us think, like, and I think we think about that in a lot of ways, like in a lot of things in work, in school. It's like, if you want to get something done, you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
Like, you have to set out a plan. You have to try to achieve it. It might not work out, but like, you're gonna give it your best shot. And so I think in discipleship, it's a similar thing. Like, I'm gonna plan out maybe some of the things I'm gonna talk to about this guy. I see this in his life. I want to encourage him. I want to help him, and I'm just gonna go for it. Like, let's grab coffee, or let's get together.
Yeah. So it does. Yeah. So there is a this, sometimes we overthink it, when it comes to making a plan, taking initiative, but it is simple as just having some forethought and then going for it, and then really, I think I like how it's framed, being intentional, because it's just like, if this is something that you desire and you feel is important, you're going to do it,
For sure.
And I think we don't have to belabor the point here, but like, there's so many things in life that we think are important, and we will. I mean, there's I don't know one person that's not serious about something.
Yeah.
It's just that, what are they serious about?
Right.
And here we're talking about being kingdom builders, so it's like,
the mission of God.
So it's like, how can you get any bigger than that? I know again, basketball is it's cool that we want to be good at basketball. People will put in the work to be good at basketball, for sure. But just like, man, how that is so tiny compared to being a part of the work of the gospel here. There's some thoughts about initiating. He mentioned I'm just being discerning. So just the idea about finding people that are teachable. So, which is true, right? Because, and that's just a thought that obviously people that will not be interested. I mean, it's it's going to be hard, to pour in their life, to put time in their life, if they're not going to be just reciprocating the attention that's necessary, to be discipled. But I think that's helpful sometimes too, because I know for us, we can, on one end of the spectrum, if we are locked about discipling, and we are locked about trying to find people and going after people that that may not have interest and that are not teachable, then there is there's something wise about being able to look elsewhere. And we know in the Proverbs, though, it is about finding instruction and counsel. So we want to be for all of us, we want to be wise. We want to be recipients of instruction, and so you're just finding those people that are doing that. Yeah.
So he gives two marks, right? Like, someone who needs help and someone who's willing to kind of receive that help. He I don't know. It kind of comes across strong. Like, you'll be wasting your time. You don't want to waste your time. So I know this is your podcast, but
No. Yeah.
I mean, I had a question for you.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this.
Yes.
It's just like, like, how would you, because I can imagine someone coming and like, there's someone who needs help, right? And they're not totally willing, maybe yet, to receive it. And I don't know, like, isn't that the heart of Christ? Like, to pursue the sheep that are lost? And so, how would you help someone who's like, hey, there's someone in my life, I really love them. We have a good friendship. They need help, but I'm not sure if they're ready yet to receive it. How would you counsel them?
So I'm gonna,
or maybe they don't recognize they need help. I don't know.
Well, I know you have the answer.
No, I
don't. Well, I think so. I think the first thing is definitely, it takes a lot of wisdom, and I don't have a super concrete answer. But other than, like, first, we want to be wise, and being wise in something like this is, James, and just seeking out wisdom from the Lord and praying, and just asking God for the wisdom to do that, because it's like not super clear all the time,
Right.
but yeah, I think, and that there's, and I know many of you on, who's listening. I know you guys, many of you have super big hearts, and it's like that one sheep, and there's 99. So yeah, like we want to go after that one sheep. There's so many people around us that are lost, that definitely need help. Right, we all need help, really, but like there's some people that really need help. We want to go after them. And I would say it's such a case by case basis, in different circumstances, and in different situations, it's going to be different. And there will be times that we'll keep going, keep pursuing, and then there will be a time where we realize, this is not profitable. That there is really no, there's no ray of light. Like there's nothing coming through from this person that indicates that they want to listen and learn from the word, and there could be some other motivation, but it may not be that. And we may need to cap it. But I'm pretty sure that over some time you've experienced this. You decided that has, I don't know if something comes to mind where you did come to that decision. It's like, okay, we're gonna take a break, we're gonna put a pause on that.
Yeah, I think there can be practical sides, because even he makes that note, like, do your schedules overlap? And so sometimes it's just like, just practically, like, someone gets busy, I enter into a busy period of life, and so those things, it just has to end or be put off. And then, like you said, spiritually, I think if they're an unbeliever, sometimes, I've had that where it's like, I studied the book of Mark with a guy, walked through, just really the core tenets of the gospel. And a big thing for him was like, he just wouldn't he agreed with a lot of stuff. He was encouraged. It seemed like the Lord was moving in different ways, giving him hope, but then he just wouldn't make it a priority to pursue the local church and be a part of a church. And so over time, it was just hard. Like, do I keep pursuing this guy? And I kind of left it with like, hey, I'd love to continue meeting with you, discipling you, but this is God's plan, like being part of the church. And so I can't, it's just not like, this can't be just a separate thing.
Right.
And so, I just left it kind of there. But there's hard relationships, even within the church, it can be just different reasons. So I don't know. It does take a lot of wisdom. We need others' help.
So and that's where, I mean, in these, God is doing so many trillion things at the same time, and one of those things is even in us as we're taking that step and initiating. God is working in us to trust in Him, and to exercise wisdom and to look for the Spirit, to give guidance and direction. So, but the good question, and really the big idea here is that, for most of us, initiating may be the hardest step, but that is part of the process here that's explained. Just, to take that step, to be the one to lead, and to have forethought and intention, and just deliberately use your time to help someone follow Christ. And that's the whole point of discipling, right? Like, that's just the real plain definition, helping others follow Christ. So it's just really you taking the lead to do that. But there's so much more to say. And then, Deborah he talked about, where a little bit, and outside the church, inside the church. What would you say there, as he's talked about kind of where it happens as it relates to the church body?
I think just pretty simple point, just that we disciple in evangelism and sanctification, and
that's what you're doing with Jesse Ray.
Just trying to go out there and preach the gospel. And then some of those guys you meet and they're more interested, like, hey, I want to talk about this more, I'm open. So that becomes an evangelism discipleship relationship. And to me, actually, like, that's where my heart is drawn more easily. I want to spend time with guys who don't know the Lord at all. And for some other people, it's like, they're just better be in the church, discipling guys in the church. But I think that kind of answers the last question too. Like, because at some level, discipling is not efficient, right? It's not like this thing that we can just nail down and say like this is the most intentional and time best use of my time, because we don't know at some level. And so we do have to put in we're putting ourselves at risk in a sense. Like we're using our time. It may not come to fruition, but I think ultimately we can rest in knowing and trusting the Lord is the ultimate discipler, and whatever we're doing is valuable in His eyes. And so whether it's evangelism, we don't know if the Lord will use it to save them, or just to be sowing seeds, or discipleship. You don't know if the Lord's going to exactly change that person in the way that you think is best, but we can trust the Lord. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, and then you are a product of that, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
I
mean, we all are products of that. The reality, of course. But just as you're describing your testimony and how you were brought to Cornerstone, I guess that's where I was going specifically. That I mean, someone preached the gospel to you, and met with you, and you learned from them, and then they brought you into the fold and the church, where it's God's design that we learn corporately together, and we hear the word together, and we participate in the ordinances together, and then all of those things. We received the ministry of teaching and instruction and oversight, and all of those things happen within the local body. So that's why the local body is so important, because that's really where the work of transforming and becoming like Christ. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Becoming like Christ, following Christ, where that takes place. So just we want to be around people that don't know the gospel. So we want to be in a place where we are evangelizing, and that's such the heart of and you and our church, to be in those places, so that we can bring them and draw them into the church to participate with all of us. Next, it talks about teaching. So I think that's probably where most of us do make the connection between discipling. So that seems like it's pretty straightforward. What did you think about what Deborah had to say here?
Yeah, for sure. I think when we think of even the Great Commission, teach them to obey all that I have commanded. I think maybe most people's minds, my mind used to go to just like preaching as the main thing. And I think that's the primary thing. The huge thing is like preaching and teaching from the church, equipping the saints. But I like how he also fills that out, that there's this ministry of the word that's happening in a lot of ways, right? Like kind of what we've talked about too, like it's happening in Sunday school, an equipping hour we're going to be having. Yeah. It's exciting. We're going to be having equipping hour. It's happening in children's ministry. It's happening as you read good books that are word-centered, explaining the word, applying the word. It happens in just interpersonal conversations. It happens in small groups, life groups, T groups. It's happening. We're all learning and being taught in a sense by others. And as much as we rightly teach and as rightly apply the word, then we're all learning from that and growing in Christ. I think simple things like just, and that's just simple things, just conversations you have. I remember a sister shared, I don't remember when this was, but in church, and she was like, she just mentioned something like, I come to Sundays and I try to think of like one or two people that I want to talk to, I want to encourage, I want to talk to about. And that's like stuck to me, like just a practical way of how I can come and love others. And so I was being informally discipled in a sense by that. But yeah, so many things I think over time, and just like you said, the being in the corporate church, you're just like being influenced by the word over and over and over, and growing from that.
There's another book that some of us are reading called Side by Side, where it talked about just really coming out of Philippians 1:27, and that verse is only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel, so that whether I come and see you or I'm absent, I may hear of you that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the gospel. And so just speaking to the latter of what you were talking about, of more of the interpersonal, informal times that we are able to teach one another. So there's so much to be said about the formal structures of teaching.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we may draw, rightly, there's a lot of attention towards those things, right? We need to be taught, main service, equipping hour, Bible studies, transformation groups, all those things. But there's also something we forget, that in the informal times, the interpersonal times, just in the side conversations, between services, or even outside the church, right? Just walking together, just being together. Those are teaching times too, and that's part of living out this unity that Paul's talking about in Philippians, of striving side by side, being together, and thinking through how. Yeah, so that's where the intentionality comes in too, right? Like, so if we're at our kids' basketball games, it's cool. We can talk about, hey, what are you doing over the weekend? I'm gonna grab this taco or whatnot. But that we can think about, how can I help move my brother or sister forward by bringing up something that is spiritually profitable,
Yeah.
And so that's where we want to. That's the dream for our culture in this church, is that we can do that. And what really struck me was, I think there's a launching point. I think when we went to retreat, and Pastor was talking about how in the Ephesian church, how they lost their love, and he asked the question, how is your affection for Jesus? And I just thought that, like, if we could just even ask that question, and just incorporate that into our regular conversations, just like that's just like a real easy jumping off point. Like, we've all heard this word.
Yeah.
We all see the importance of it. And like, that's, he is the cornerstone. He is the source of our being. And just to kind of keep that flame hot and thinking about our enjoyment and our love for him, So I have been discipled by people in this church who have asked me that question, how am I loving the Lord today? How am I enjoying the Lord today? And it just makes me think that, like that didn't happen. Like, asking those questions don't necessarily happen, in service. Like, they happen when we're out getting coffee, or if we're waiting to be picked up or something like that, you know? So just recognizing there's so many forms of teaching that take place, and really taking advantage of those opportunities, that we can influence one another by just speaking and encouraging truth, or encouraging each other to think spiritually, to be spiritually minded. Next, that talks about correcting. So this is probably the easiest part of discipling, right? This is probably the most comfortable, easiest. No, this is not, actually. This is probably the most hardest thing on the planet to do. And from a really probably in the church, right? Like, in the church life. Is there anything harder than being in front of a brother or sister and providing correction? So Evan's the master, I'm sure. Sure. But Evan, share maybe just, I know, like you, like, God has humbled us. There are times, this is where we feel our weakness, where God has exposed us and our inability, but he's shown up in those moments. And for you, if you're able to speak to that, where did God show up when you had to do this for other brothers?
Well, I think
sisters?
to start, it's just that what he mentions, part of being a Christian is recognizing that sin deceives us, and we need help. We need other believers to help us see the things we cannot see about ourselves. And so I think just starting there, like, for us to be good at correcting others, we have to be good at receiving criticism. We have to be good at receiving correction. And I think you see that in the Proverbs so clearly. Like, the foolish man is the one who doesn't receive that. It pushes against that. And so and And then I think we just learn that by experience. Like when we don't listen to others and we don't see that, and then we reap the consequences. We're like, okay, like the Lord teaches us, and I think so. We want to be people, first of all, that invite correction into our lives, that hear others, and I think that can come simply just by like, you know, when you do things, and you just see like people's reaction, you're like, okay, like that was probably not the best way, you know, or you just learn by like, sometimes people don't even need to say anything, right?
Yeah.
Or I remember early as a Christian, you know, just being on fire for like Reformed theology, Calvinism, just like so zealous but so dumb. And I just remember sharing with the brother, like, man, I had this conversation with this guy, and then we just started talking about this Reformed theology, and he's like, oh, like why did you like jump there immediately?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, like, and then I just started thinking, like, why did I go there? Like,
Yeah.
why didn't I talk about the gospel? Why didn't I talk about the glory of God? And so it's just like being discipled slowly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always need to be said. So I think that's just where, like, if we are quick to listen and invite that correction at any level, then we'll learn more and more.
Yeah.
By humility. But then, how do we do that in love? I think it is so hard to correct, and depending on who we are and our just natural tendency, for us, some of us it's even harder to do just naturally. And so I think for me, and some of us, it's like, it's just hard to know, like, is this really the most loving thing? And so I think it has to come from a firm conviction that, like, this is the way of God. Matthew 18 is part of the way of God, to purify his church, to help the church, and then also just being convinced, like, this is what God does to us. He disciplines us as children because he loves us as a father. And then Hebrews 3, like, we are called to take care lest there be an unbelieving heart in us, leading us to fall away from God. So we're called to exhort one another every day, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. And so that's like, I need to love my brother more than I love myself. I need to love my brother more than I love my comfort, because they are, headed towards sin, walking in sin, and so I want to love someone and correct them. And that's just part of, so being convicted by that, I think, leads to the courage and the love of God to go forth and to correct someone. I have this note. So this is actually... I can't say his name, but our friend's...
The book?
Okay. Yeah, he gave this away. So I love this note. He says, keeping friends is not the ultimate goal. And man, like, we have to... In Dever says here, you have to fear God more than man by being willing to correct others when necessary and risk their rejection of you for it. So just putting aside our pride, putting aside our own selfish desire to stay safe and maintain that friendship, but like in love. Treat them as a brother rather than a worldly friend.
And that's so key, you explaining just the context, right? So that it is in love. And the reality, I know that it's hard for a lot of us to correct, but, you know, for us as parents, we're doing it all the time. And it comes more naturally. But and we do that because we do love our kids. And we do want the best for them. And sometimes we don't think of one another that way, that, you know, like, because you know, there's a certain hierarchy, right? And like, that's our job, so to speak. But when we see that the place for correction is coming from a place of love and care, and when we look around and we see our brothers and sisters, and seeing, you know, people that do need correction, they do need wisdom, as you're describing, I love this guy so much. I love the Lord so much, and articulating that to them. And I know that I've had to change the way that I speak, even even within my own family, you know, about, you know, when we talk about correction and giving instruction in this way, that emphasizing it is out of love for the Lord and out of love for them, so that they can follow the Lord. So, and that's why, I mean, in this section here, like, you know, the emphasis is on correcting. So, and rightly said, you know, we can facilitate that by being in a place of ourselves receiving correction. So creating an environment where correction can be done. But that is, that is something that is unnatural for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But just, I like the way that you elaborated here on what Deborah was talking about, just recognizing that it is really God's love that compels us, and acknowledging the different ways in Matthew 18 that God has determined to provide that correction where needed.
And like all discipling is, like you were saying, like discipling is so against the world's ways, and I feel like this one is very much so. Like being willing to receive correction and then giving correction is so against our culture, and so we really need to fight to, I think, believe both of those, and do both of those things. Yeah,
it's so good. The next part it talks about modeling. So I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit, and I can say, church, I mean, that's why I love Cornerstone. That's why I love you guys. That's why we constantly say how much we love you. And I think it's part of me being discipled by many of you, watching your lives, watching the way that you serve, watching the way that you care. And for many of you, you have no idea. You have no idea that we've seen you, that we've observed you, and how you've enlarged our hearts, for Jesus. And in a lot of ways, we want to be like. I want to be like you. I want to be like how you serve, how you use your time, how you think through things, and how you care for your wives and your husbands and your kids. How you handle conflict, how you pray. And so, church, just keep going and discipling me. But Evan, what was your thoughts about this part here?
I think this was probably underlooked by me, like when I was younger, and I remember learning about discipling, I think from a sermon or a teaching, and I was like, I need a guy who can just tell me everything to do. And so I was like, the teaching, like overemphasizing the teaching, like so I remember going to a guy and just like, hey, would you be my discipler? Would you teach me, tell me everything? Basically, just tell me what to do with my life, tell me what to do every day. And I thought that was what the epitome of like discipling was. And so he over time invited me into his life, and I think he taught a lot of things, but a lot of it was just modeling. Like, got to see how he loved his kids, shepherded his kids, disciplined his kids, even inviting me into like, how do we teach them the Bible at night, put them down, and just learn. I think you just take it for granted how much we learn from one another. I think I can say this. My brother, he went to, or maybe I shouldn't say it. But
you're a friend.
Friend
Adam Smith.
He went to, so this is a guy who did like secular counseling, but he went to group therapy, and he's like, he's just learning from other people sharing their weaknesses, how they deal with it, and then we were talking about this, and he's like, this is kind of what you do at church, right? In like small group. And I was like, not exactly, but also yes, like in some ways, like we're learning from each other. Like I wouldn't know, as we walk along, like I wouldn't know how like a mature Christian would handle this situation or think about this, or how I should be thinking about doing my devotional time or praying to the Lord. Like I learned so much by doing life with others. And there's been guys, like the elders have been just sitting in with elders, hearing your guys' lives, hearing like your passion even for discipleship, and seeing you pursuing guys like that. That all is like modeling to me, like what I want to be as a parent, as a father, as an elder. Like that's all modeling to me. So just you guys in my life. Just to shout out like Josh Mack, even more current guys, right? Josh Mack has been such an influence in me, modeling. yeah, just love for others, love for his family, teaching and preaching. Josh Feaster doing a lot of ministry with him, Isaiah doing ministry with him, and yeah, even like counseling a guy with Josh Feaster was so helpful. Like seeing like we might take things at a different angle at times, but it's like the heart is there, and I can learn so much from that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just walking with people in the church, and like I said, like just different influences from different guys, just spending time with them, we just learn so much, right?
Yeah.
And I think Paul says like imitate me as I imitate Christ, and
right.
And so yeah, I think as we all are following Christ, like we all have the ability to influence others and be models, and whether we know it or not, like whether we think it or not, like we are making an influence upon others.
Yeah.
We are actually causing others to rejoice in Christ more because of the influence he's having on us. So
yeah, that's right. I think that's what we're the theme that is just running through these conversations is that we are so easily influenced, and even if we're not actively looking for it, you just like by watching passively, by seeing how people do things, we can be influenced, and we want to be positive influences, right? We want to be that's edification, right? That's how we build one another up, by just not verbally teaching. Obviously, that's so important, but that and I know Hyun made it a point in the last session, just how the importance of modeling does take place, and it's worth just even talking about too in our culture. If we can just press on something a little bit, how we are so busy, and we got so many things going on, so many good things, and we sometimes have so little space for people to be in our lives. And I know that I'm thinking about that a lot, because God has given us so much, and in terms of resources, time is one of them, and it's just about how we use time. And providing a space where people can be with us, and like you say, observe and follow us, like imitate me as I imitate Christ. And there's so much fun just talking and thinking through stuff, but also just watching. And church, believe me, I've watched you. I've so many of you, I incorporate things that I've seen, how you speak to your kids, how you just with your hands and with your actions, you've built others up, not just within the church but outside the church. And man, I want to be like, that's why I want to be like you guys. I really do. When we say you guys are our heroes, that's what we're talking about. It's because you guys are going and doing things that I would not have thought about doing, and I can see how that is God's gift to you to do, and it encourages me to want to follow your example. And so just giving space for each other, that people can see that, and allow them to follow you in that way. So thanks, Evan. So we're gonna keep going here. There's a few more sections here. I know we're kind of at the hour mark, so or actually we're at the 50. We have 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes here, so a couple things, and I'll let you decide, what you want to jump off on, but there's a few things here. Mutual love, humility, what else here? Yeah, I think those are the main things that are left here that we haven't really talked about, but how are we, what would you, how would you expand on some of these ideas?
I don't know. Those are both good points. I think to roll it from modeling into humility, because he kind of labors the point of like this example, how someone would just invite someone into their house, and then they would show they didn't think that their weakness was helpful, and I think that's kind of fighting against our culture too, that we need to be like gurus, or we need to be someone who has it all together, and just like fighting against that. Like, we are weak people, and he had said that before, like, don't be afraid to show your weakness, and you can disciple people also just showing them how do you deal with your weakness, How do you deal with, your temptations and sin? How do you run to the Lord in those things, and fight to overcome them? And just like, how do you invite them into your life? Like, I think that was personally, in terms of like modeling too, just seeing a family, because when you spend more time with someone, you just get to know them. You're like, okay, like you don't have it all together. Like, you have things, your kids have things, but how do you respond to those things? And I think you learn so much, like, just seeing the weakness, but then also the strength of Christ working in them to overcome those things, to trust in the Lord when you're anxious or when you're stressed, to disciple your kids when they're acting out, and when they're probably stressed because they have people over, or so I think that's all part of just us being Christians in this life, and being able to be real, and helping others by running to Christ in the midst of real situations.
Yeah. That's so important, and I think that's one of the loudest things you want to say, from all of these sessions, and we're gonna keep bringing it up, is just that we want to boast in our weakness. We want to be humbled, and because we're not the hero, as Josh often says, right? We're not the ones that are getting the glory, and so I remember thinking very early on, in order to be a leader in any way, in this context, and be in a discipling relationship, like I have to be the guru. I got to know things.
Yeah.
I got to know what to say. I don't, it's awkward for me to direct conversations and things like that. So I'm more, kind of cringed and like stepped back from those opportunities. But just thinking, and I would hear people talk about, these discipling relationships, like this guy is, so much wiser than this next guy. So like, that's perfect, And that's true, right? Like, but it's just, we just got to know just a little bit more, or not even just, and even just be in the same season of life, or just be in the same stage, because it's the emphasis is really on us being dependent on the Lord and trusting the Lord together. And that's where this description of this person, where they definitely didn't have it together, they definitely weren't the guru, they didn't know all things, they didn't know how to say things, they may be like me, kind of stumbling through stuff, in a very disorganized way, just like talking and rambling. But the idea is that really we are being dependent on the Lord together. We're running to the Lord together. We are praying to the Lord together. And that's how, we help people follow Christ, is that in our weakness, in our inadequacy, in everything that we're not, we're going to the person that has everything, and we have the Spirit of God, to help us be directed, to Christ, and to be shown His Word, and from that, like, that's super powerful. So that's why we've said, in the church, for every believer, discipling is so essential, that it is for every believer, not just for anyone that's has it together and that knows things. But that if you are a believer and you know the gospel, there are other people that don't know the gospel, that don't have wisdom. And so you, just by knowing the gospel itself, you can disciple someone. And that's where every person, if you are a believer, definitely you want to learn, you want to be a disciple, but to disciple, to be in other people's lives, we see how critical it is for the church, and how there is a place in the church for every person to disciple.
Yeah. And I think the end of discipling, he kind of talks about it in mutual love. Like, it's so neat when you have a discipling relationship and you really can become friends with that person. Like, it's not just like this teacher to student. Like, you really can walk alongside, and as much as you are even maybe teaching or leading someone, you're being so blessed by that too. And so, it's a sweet thing when that relationship happens. And then also, like you were saying, like, discipleship doesn't always have to be like top down. It could be like side to side. Like, we're walking together, influencing each other, loving the Lord more and more because we're walking together.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why again, I keep beating this drum, and that's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we're spending so much attention on this, because discipling is the culture that we want to have in our church, and for us being discipled, and for us to be in people's lives, discipling others, and of course, right? It's like, yeah, I don't have to. So we don't want to go the other way and say, okay, Francis told me I don't have to be the guru. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm just going to show up, my pajamas, and I'm just going to talk what's on my mind.
Yeah.
Of course not, church, right? Of course, in order for us to have, we want to be encouraging. We want to edify with wisdom. We want to tell people what we know about Jesus. And so obviously we want to have our cups filled, right? It's out of the overflow of what we're learning, what we're enjoying about Christ, what God is doing in our lives, how we are struggling, with the truth. We want to wrestle with the truth. We want to have things, on our minds from an eternal spiritual perspective to share. And so, yes, of course, like the Sunday school answer is the Bible. Yes, to fill yourself with truth, so that as you are being influenced by the truth, that you can influence others. So, but on one hand, the bar is super low, right? But the bar is super high in that you want to be filled with the truth. But thankfully, we have the Spirit, and the Spirit elevates us to reach that bar, and that God is there to help us in our time of need, and to fill us with what is true. So. Yeah. So, last things as we round out here, Evan. Hopefully, it will be another round, because I know that there's a number of chapters where you guys can come on twice, but this may not be your last. But if it is, potentially, maybe Japan might be coming around.
Yeah.
But if this is your last charge to the church about this topic of discipling, share your heart.
I think I'll kind of end with where Dever ends, and this has been on my mind. Is he says, "We're all disciples. The only question is of whom." He said, "Are we following other believers toward the heavenly city and helping still more to do the same?" And I think just having this eternal mindset of, and I was actually discipled by you, Francis, discipling another guy, because I met up with the guy and he was like, Francis told me he was just thinking about life and what he's gonna prioritize, and he's like, what would the me of 10,000 years say to me today,
Yeah.
And I think that just puts everything in perspective. What are we living for? What is our priority? And if this is what God has called us to, this is the mission of God, to disciple others, to teach them all that Christ has commanded, if this is what really matters in all of life, because eternity with the Lord is what really matters, then we have to be all about discipling. And and it's just such an encouragement that this is what we'll be rejoicing in, that not that I don't know, the Lakers won, or that I made a 3-pointer, whatever, that anything we did, but we're gonna be rejoicing that man, Francis, you helped me to become more like Christ, and I helped this guy to become more like Christ, and we can rejoice in God's grace to us, through us, in discipling.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I appreciate that, and I can't take credit for that, because he shared that with you. I got that from Mac. Josh, you shared that with me early on. And that's how discipling works. And Josh is going to say well, Francis, I got that from somebody. Yeah. And then, so we're all, learning from each other, standing on other people's shoulders, so to speak, and that's how it works, church. That's how it works. And that's, until the day that we're with the Lord together around the throne, worshiping and praising him. That's the telos, that's the end. We're all just is striving towards. So, church, that's where we're gonna end today. So, thank you, Evan, for being on. And next time we're gonna have Pastor Isaiah. We're gonna be in chapter 4, and we're gonna talk about the objections to discipling. So that's gonna be a fun topic. But for now, thank you for jumping on, and we'll see you next time.